All right, new for you this morning, a statement we got overnight from the owner of the Tierra Blanca Youth Ranch is now at the center of a major lawsuit.
Yes, you see, the family of 18-year-old Bruce Steger, who was killed in a car crash at Tierra Blanca Ranch last year, is now suing, saying that his death resulted from carelessness and abuse. Well, in the lawsuit filed in Santa Fe District Court, it makes the claims that before the crash, Steger was beaten, handcuffed, and shackled like a member of a Southern prison road gang. That, again, happening at the ranch.
Bruce's family just wants to make sure that nothing like this ever happens to any other boy at Tierra Blanca Ranch.
The statement released by Scott Chandler expresses their condolences to the family, but goes on to say, quote, "We are also extremely saddened at the attempts of unknown parties to make totally outrageous claims of abuse against Scott Chandler, which he, as well as many others, know to be false and cannot be further from the truth." Bruce was 18 and had chosen to stay in the program because he held Scott and the program in such high regard. "We are saddened at the attempts to mislead Bruce's family," end quote. Well, in some other news, with a little over a week to go in the legislative session, it seems lawmakers are moving backwards on the budget.
Yeah, while Democrats and Republicans negotiate, the House voted to send the $6.2 billion budget bill back to committee. The two sides are fighting with $20 million in money for education. Democrats want that money controlled and spent by individual school districts, while Republicans want to invest it in the governor's education reforms where the state would manage them. Last Friday, the House brought the budget up for a vote. It did not pass. If legislators cannot cut a deal by this time next week, they'll have to come back for a special session. That means it's going to cost more money. Well, if some legislators have their way, it could soon be more difficult to change the state constitution. A legislative panel approved a proposal requiring 2/3 of the state House and Senate to approve a constitutional amendment rather than a simple majority. That is before we would all vote on it. The proposal was approved on a 5-4 vote. It's now headed for another committee to be considered.
Well, some bad news for New Mexico Education Secretary-designate Hannah Scandera. A plan to get rid of her position is now headed to the state Senate for a vote. Democrat Michael Padilla's constitutional amendment would create an elected state board of education with an appointed superintendent to manage the education system. That's how it used to work until 2003 when voters approved the current system. Republicans claim Democrats back the idea because Governor Martinez appointed Scandera. Padilla denies that, though, saying that he wants to take politics out of education and give voters more input and create more stability. A bill backed by the governor would boost benefits for law enforcement officers and firefighters who are hurt while on the job. It's currently making its way through the legislature. Bernalillo County Deputy Robin Hopkins, who was wounded in the line of duty, is glad.
If we're hurt, they should take care of us until we get back to work. But I'm grateful that it's all public safety. It's not just one area of it.
Hopkins was one of 4 injured in a shootout with a suspect back in October. She has been out of work ever since. Because of the way the current law is written, her pay is cut and the county does not contribute into her pension. The new bill would give local and state agencies the option to continue those benefits while first responders are recovering.
U.S. Senator Tom Udall is introducing a bill that would increase access to primary care doctors here in New Mexico and all across the country. Senator Udall says it's going to address the growing shortage of doctors and other healthcare professionals, and particularly in rural and underprivileged communities with programs and incentives. This includes programs aimed at encouraging medical students to pursue primary care work, basically being doctors in communities that need them the most. Senator Udall says access to health care is a serious problem, particularly here in New Mexico.
A man who is accused of breaking into the state treasurer's office this week is now in jail. State police say James Montoya ransacked 2 Santa Fe buildings early Monday. Treasurer James Lewis thinks Montoya had the wrong idea about what was in his office.
Well, you have a title of state treasurer and we are the bank for the state. And so people may not realize that we don't have cash around here.
Electronics and other valuables were taken. Montoya is facing burglary and other charges. Well, it has been almost a month since the small city of Roswell was rocked with a horrific school shooting.
And now life is slowly getting back to normal for students and staff, particularly the ones at Brendo Middle School. The gym where a 12-year-old is accused of shooting two classmates reopened with a basketball game last weekend. And one of the kids who got shot, Kendall Sanders, just 13 years old here, was there for it.
That was one big step for all of us, to get to the gym, to see where it happened, and that put some closure.
Well, Kendall was an honorary ref for the game. Her mom says she did it for herself and for other kids who might be worried or scared about going back there. Kendall is still getting therapy for her arm and shoulder. That's where she was shot. Then there's Nathaniel Tavares here. He was shot in the face and the neck. Now, he is still at a rehab center in Dallas. Then there's Mason Campbell, this young man. He is the accused shooter and is being held in the Chavez County Juvenile Jail.
Oh. Well, Kendall does look good. She's a brave girl. Glad to see her back.
She is. She's getting homeschooled right now, and her family thinks she'll be able to go back to school next year.
By the way, the anniversary of that shooting is actually tomorrow.
The 1 month.